When you hear the word tariffs, chances are you think higher prices, trade wars, economic pain. But what if we told you tariffs might not be as bad as you've been told? In fact, they could be a powerful tool, not just for negotiation, but for reshaping America's future. Hey everyone, welcome back to KIP TV, where we break down power, policy, and preparedness. Today we're diving into the world of tariffs, a word that's sparked global tensions but also forged national strength. Let's rewind the clock first. A quick history of tariffs in America. Throughout the 1800s, America imposed tariffs on cargo being imported to America on ships. During the Industrial Revolution, tariffs were actually one of the first sources of revenue for the U.S. government. In the 1800s, before income tax existed, customs duties paid for nearly all federal expenses. But they weren't just about money. It was to maintain a balance of trade. During wartime, like the War of 1812 and the Civil War, tariffs were used to protect domestic industries and maintain economic independence when global markets collapsed or turned hostile. Yes, we've seen the ugly side, like the Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1930, which worsened the Great Depression. But since then, we've learned how to use tariffs more strategically. Today, tariffs are used as a negotiating tool. Let's be real. Every country wants access to the American market. It's the most valuable consumer base on the planet. If you want to sell in America, you're playing in the Super Bowl of consumer markets. So why shouldn't we use that as leverage? Countries like China, Mexico, and India often limit U.S. access to their markets through regulations, local subsidies, and informal barriers. Tariffs can level the playing field. They're a pressure point. America isn't saying no trade, we're saying fair trade, reducing the tax burden on American workers. Here's a little-known fact. Shifting tax collection from income to consumption, which tariffs essentially do, can reduce the tax burden on the American worker. As of 2024, 50% of federal revenues came from individual income tax, 34% form payroll tax, and 11% from corporate taxes. But what if instead some of that revenue came from foreign companies who want access to our market? This is the concept behind tariffs. Imposing an import tax on foreign companies that want access to our markets. Tariffs do that. Instead of taxing Americans more, we tax imports, which means foreign producers help foot the bill. Short-term pain, long-term power, now. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Don't tariffs raise prices and cause inflation? Yes. In the short term, tariffs can increase the cost of imported goods. That's real. Whether it's steel, electronics, or food, when tariffs hit, the price might jump. But what about that inflation bump? It's temporary. But what happens next is where the power kicks in. American factories being built, training centers, job fairs. When companies see a tariff wall, they're incentivized to move production back to the U.S. That creates domestic competition, which over time drives prices down because we're not dependent on vulnerable global supply chains. Even more importantly than price, it's about power and controlled power to produce what we need. Power to resist supply shocks. Power to protect national security. And once again proudly say, made in America. So yeah, you might pay a little more today. But that's the cost of regaining control. It's not inflation, it's sovereignty. Boosting U.S. manufacturing and investment tariffs will help rebuild Rust Belt towns into new cutting-edge factories. Creating jobs in regions like the South and Midwest. Tariffs can also jumpstart domestic investment. When imported goods are more expensive, American-made alternatives suddenly become more competitive. Since 2018, after certain tariffs were put in place, companies began reshoring production, especially in steel, electronics, and pharmaceuticals. And guess where those factories are going? Middle America. Towns that have been ignored for decades are now getting a second chance. Domestic job and skills creation, and with new factories come jobs. But not just any jobs. Skilled labor jobs that can support families, not just pay rent. Workers in training, high-tech machinery, welding, and fabrication schools. Apprenticeships, technical programs, and vocational schools are booming. Tariffs give American industry a reason to hire again and invest in American workers. And jobs in manufacturing have a multiplier effect. For every one factory job, up to 4 more are created in surrounding industries. Here's some data you shouldn't ignore. China imposes a 25% import duty on American cars. China exports into the U.S. just 2.5%. Still not convinced? Here's proof. The EU puts a 35% tax on some U.S. agricultural goods. Meanwhile, the U.S. remains one of the most open markets in the world. In 2024, The trade imbalance with China was $295.4 billion. That's not free trade. It's free for them, not for us. Tariffs can be a tool to rebalance the table and force those who profit from our markets to play fair or lose access. Closing thoughts. We're not saying tariffs are a silver bullet. They simply need to be used smartly, strategically, and carefully. And maybe, just maybe, they won't be as bad as the media wants you to think. In a world of economic chess, tariffs are a queen piece, and it's time we learned how to use it. If you found this video eye-opening, hit like, and share it with someone who still thinks tariffs are just tax bombs. And don't forget to subscribe for more smart takes right here on KIP TV. Knowledge, independence, power.